Happy 2018, meddling kids. Today we have a very special episode. My best friend is joining us to discuss Scooby's Night with a Frozen Fright. And then Chris Osborne at the Play Comics podcast is going to give us a review of a video game about Scooby-Doo. The sound today is a little bit off. Sorry, it's not our usual standard, but stick with us. Next time Olaf comes on, we will fix all the sound issues. Thanks for bearing with us. Welcome back to the Meddling Kids Podcast, a groovy review of all things Scooby-Doo. I am Julie Kidd, and
I'm special guest host, Olaf.
Thank you so much, Olaf, for being a guest. And you want our listeners to refer to you as Olaf?
Correct.
And how are you related to the host of the Scooby-Doo podcast?
I'm romantically tied with this person.
That viewers can't see? Or are you talking about me or Steven? Preserved?
Preserved, yeah. Preserved caveman in it with a huge bashing stick. And for some reason, the ice
Bludger.
Falls over into the ocean.
Yes. Yes, I was very impressed at how his bashing stick, as you put it, but I like to think it's a bludger from Quidditch, is well preserved. But I was more impressed by how his skirt was well preserved. And relieved, frankly, because you would think that that would have been the first thing to go in an avalanche.
Yeah, it's not really that accurate. The caveman should have been naked.
Well, I'll follow up throughout the episode with Caveman Skirt Watch 2017. Meanwhile, the kids are at a beach party, and they are saying it's a groovy day for a beach party, which I'm convinced are the same words they used back in episode 1 many years ago, or last year. Fred and Daphne are quote-unquote dancing, and Scooby and Shaggy are fishing in the lunch basket for their food, and they're eating cold hot dogs. Have you ever done that?
No. But did you notice the shout out to the Yogi Bear show?
No.
With the stealing of the picnic baskets?
No, did they say that?
No, they didn't say picnic baskets, but they stole a wicker picnic basket, just like used in the Yogi Bear show.
Too bad they didn't actually say pick-a-nicka basket.
Too bad.
Too bad. We should write in a time machine. So Velma's like, come on, Shag, let's dance, which is our first nod at a potential romantic involvement between Shaggy and Velma, who Steven believes to be a mother-son relationship, which I guess is also possible that they would dance too. Olaf is doing that tick thing again, everybody. But this time with both eyes. Anyway, Shaggy ignores her, and also like a mother-son relationship, and uses a toy mouse to catch a catfish. But Shaggy gets pulled up a palm tree to certain groin damage. Like, I am really nervous about this boy. He's going up 2 legs surrounding the palm tree all the way to the top. And it turns out that what he's fishing for is not a catfish, but a giant dude in an ice cube.
Yeah, and it doesn't make much sense. You can't really hook a chunk of ice. Hooks don't really work that way. But regardless, there's a giant chunk, and instantly the kids are afraid. And that's just silly. Cavemen were not, more dangerous than you or I. They were just people. And so why should you assume that this caveman is going to be violent in some way?
I completely agree. I think it was more horror at finding a cadaver. Yes?
No, he was preserved in ice. The kids know that if you preserve something in ice, it lasts forever. So they knew he was alive right from the start. That's why they were going in fear.
Okay, I think that they were concerned because they found a dead body. And normal children, when they find a dead body... you've seen Lean on Me.
I don't think we're going to settle this debate here. Let's move on to the next scene. Okay, so they go to Oceanland. And at Oceanland, I'd like to say that's a shout out to Marineland, which used to be in Palos Verdes, California.
I'm so glad you're old and know this stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, I went to Marineland, and the big feature of Marineland was you get to swim with sharks.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah, little sharks. So I swam with little sharks there when I was a teenager.
Gosh.
Yeah, but it doesn't exist anymore.
Was there a good research program there with unethical scientists?
I don't think so. I think most marine research takes place at universities, not at theme parks. All right, so they get to the Oceanland, they meet the professor, they meet a scientist. These are the suspects that they roll out at about the 5-minute mark of every show.
And the two scientists are really happy to have this cadaver. But one of them points out, it would have floated to us anyway because of the way the currents are. That's foreshadowing. Anyway, one pushes the ice into the freezer, and one is like, hey, it would be kind of cool if we brought him back to life. Let's discuss weird, unethical experiments with these strange teenagers. And also, I gotta say, there are rules there are unspoken rules about what you can and can't put into the freezer in the break room. I would say, top of the list, 1, fish. 2, fish that you're going to reheat in the microwave especially. Don't do it. 2, leaky stuff. And 3, cadavers.
Well, it's a walk-in freezer, so it's different than a typical work environment.
Okay, well, anyway, meanwhile, Scooby does some cute tickling of a baby octopus until Mrs. Octopus gets mad, and it made me think of the Adventure Zone. Anyway, a mystery hand turns the heat on to the ice dude.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, why do they have a space heater in the middle of the freezer? You would think that that would not be something you would have in a freezer, but it's there, and a mystery hand touched it.
Mystery hand.
Well,
By the
scene
way,
5.
Oh, wait. Big dude has a really high voice, and the little dude has a low voice. Those are in my notes. It's canon. The two professors, one's big and brawny with a mustache and looks like Tom Selleck, and he has a really high voice like this. And the other scientist is my sound waves just went off the chart. Sorry, everyone. And the little scrawnier professor, the hot one, his voice is like this.
I'm sure you've noticed that they don't change voice actors, right? So you have the same bad guy be the voice actor for the deep-throated guy. So you know pretty well that it's the guy with the deep voice who's going to be the bad guy, because he's been the bad guy several times in previous shows.
I'd just like to hear him say, "Hey, Dr. Julie Ken, you want to do some science with me?" That would be pretty awesome.
So, meanwhile, back away from Oceanland, the kids are at a malt shop. They're eating food.
Teen metabolism.
Right. And the only thing left is to eat is a sandwich with an ice cube.
Worst sandwich ever.
Yeah, well, it could be a mustard and mayonnaise sandwich. That would be even worse.
It kind of reminds me of college days. One of my roommates used to eat a bread sandwich. You know what's in that?
Nothing.
Bread.
Yeah.
That's comedy gold, Olaf. Sorry. Continue.
Oh, well, no, I was finished.
Oh, you were done. By the way.
That's pretty much it. You go to the malt shop and then that sets up the next scene, which is...
Well, Shaggy says he left his, and this is in quotes on my note, rotten wheel at Oceanland. I have no idea what that means. He's not talking about the mystery machine, because that's at the malt shop. What was he talking about?
Probably his bong.
Oh, okay. I'm going to impress all the druggies I know by referring to bongs in the future as rotten wheels.
Good idea.
They'll think I'm cool and hip and with it. Okay, back.
Because all marijuana users are cool and hip and with it.
I live in Washington State. That says a lot about our populace. Okay. Anyway, back at Oceanland, the kids go back and break in. Because you do. And they need their rotten wheel immediately, apparently. While they're inside, they see a door ripped off its hinges. Fred's like, let's go in further and mess up stuff. And then one of them says, jumping jelly beans, which I really like. Anyway, Professor Wayne's fur parka is on the floor, not on his body. They don't know where the body is. And the caveman is gone as well. Daphne's like, that's impossible. Total Scully. And Velma says, not if he came back to life. Mulder. And then Shaggy's totally my hero because he tries to pick up the phone and call the sheriff. Good work, Shaggy. Thank goodness. Love him. But the phone is broken, and he tries to use Scooby's snout as a phone, and that doesn't work very well. The kids find the heater has been turned on. Outside, they find huge footprints. Shaggy has to carry Scooby to follow the scent of the footprints, at which point I turned to Olaf and said, if that was our dog Scout, he'd be peeing everywhere.
It's true.
But fortunately, Scooby, although chicken, is not as chicken as our little Scouty.
They leave for the dock, right? They're done at Oceanland. They've looked around. They've snooped around. They're always trespassing, and of course they trespassed at Oceanland. They come out to the dock, and it's the middle of the night, and Professor what's-his-name? Engstrom is communicating with a dolphin using his marine communicator.
And Velma calls it a fish.
Yeah, Velma is not as well educated as she would seem.
Right.
Yeah. So she calls it a fish. And so they go up, And for some reason, they need to sneak up to this guy. Why don't they just like go up to him and say, "Hey, Professor Engstrom, what's up?" But no, they need to sneak up to him. So of course, the best sneaker is
Scooby.
Yeah.
Which is wrong. He has 4 feet, twice as many feet to cause shenanigans.
Yeah, but he can stay low.
That's true.
He
Good
can
point.
stay low, and that's what he does. He stays low, and the professor doesn't even see him. And then he sneaks up to the professor, and Engstrom gets really shocked. He's like really on high alert that this, this weird dog is coming up to him.
Well, I mean, at that point, Scooby had all 4 paws stuck in a bucket and a tarp over his head and was causing a lot of, commotion.
Yeah, but Engstrom's acting pretty suspiciously. What is he doing out there in the middle of the night? Do dolphins only like to talk in the middle of the night? I don't think so.
He has PTSD, and it was just some hypervigilance that results from... It's a common side effect,
It's a common side effect to do things in the middle of the night?
No, it's a common side effect that if a dog sneaks up on you with 4 buckets stuck to its paws without you expecting it, that you're gonna react. Well, anyway, let's continue.
Well,
agree to disagree. I'm right,
then.
you're wrong. I'm right, it's my podcast.
No.
I get to edit it to make you sound like just some dumb lawyer.
You left out the part where he got nipped by a barrel of live lobsters, which happens to be on the dock in the middle of the night.
Okay. The kids open this door to a shack that Professor Engstrom has run into, and the caveman's there. And quick, caveman skirt alert, his skirt is still attached. Loincloth in place. And all the kids hop on Velma to run away, which I really do think it's canonical that she's the strongest, because it's again that they all hop on her. This is like the 3rd or 4th time that's happened.
Yeah, well, if this had been a real show, I think either one of the dudes or one of the ladies would have fallen in love with the caveman because he's kind of built.
Yeah, but his eyebrows aren't colored in. He needs some makeup on his eyebrows.
Yeah, but Scooby's whiskers aren't even attached to his face. They're not really that.
Shaggies.
Shaggies. I get those two mixed up all the time.
I get it. I do too. Okay, so they're back. They run away back to the building. They're talking about how they need to just split up and look for it. I don't know. If this caveman was really 2 million years old and he had just thawed, I don't think my first instinct would be to chase teenagers and dogs. My first instinct would be 1, go potty, and 2, eat food.
Yeah, you would think.
Anyway, searching. The thing happens where so it's one of those scenes where the caveman wants to bash them with a bat. Okay. He thinks he's Quaffles. Anyway, he stomps on Scooby's tail by accident. Scooby's tail's hanging up from behind a curtain, and Scooby's in pain, but Shaggy hands him a paper bag, and so Scooby can just howl in pain into the paper bag, and then they hand the paper bag to the caveman, and he opens it, and it's like, oh, which is a pretty good gag.
Yeah, that is good.
The dude runs with his mouth open, which is not very good for evolutionary progress. You're going to get a lot of flies in there. Anyway, Scooby and Shaggy run into a performing seals arena. This is where a young Olaf swam with sharks many years ago, ostensibly. And in my notes I have, this is going to be good. And it is, because at first they pretend to be clapping seals, and then they blow horns. And I really admire the work ethic of the 3 seals who are in there with them, who are like, look at these Johnnies come lately. They don't even know what they're doing.
But they're also performing in the middle of the night. I mean, it just seems like these seals are just always on, just in case someone comes by so that they can play with their little plastic ball.
I know, it's not, but either they were practicing because they just love their job, or someone needs to shut down this attraction and rehome these seals.
It's kind of a stereotype that seals just like to play with balls. They like to do other stuff too.
Well, they also toss dogs and teenagers back and forth while the cave dude tries to slam them with his big bat.
Yeah, if you had a snout that strong, it would be awesome. I mean, to be able to lift a dog with your nose. Wow.
It's incredible. If only your snout was that strong.
Indeed.
I could think of some uses. Anyway, they ride on a whale, they're tossed into a trash can, and before we find out what happens next, we have a commercial break. We'll be right back.
Trivia Geeks, the unpredictable game show podcast, is back with a brand new season. They've got a new host, new games, and a new day and time. But that's not all. Now you can download their companion app, Triv Now, and play along in real time. Watch Carrie on YouTube as she tries to convince her partner that his Dark Knight hasn't risen in years. Listen on Diamond Club and Alpha Geek Radio, Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Twitter and get all the latest updates and showtimes.
Okay, we're back.
All right, now, so the next scene, they're looking for Scoob and Shag. So Scoob and Shag have disappeared, and they pretend to be frozen seals. Did I get that note right? They pretend to be frozen seals?
I don't recall that.
I don't think I saw that. You know,
were you using your rotten wheel?
Was that?
Were you using a rotten wheel before?
So they ride on a whale for a while.
Yep.
And then what happens?
Okay, so they all are reunited. I like Jason or Olaf's transition. I don't know what my notes say. Then what happens, Julie? The real pro fills it. Okay, they all reunite. Velma has snuck into the lab and stolen a map. And she says, look at this map. You can see this current spot, or the current from this spot goes right to Oceanland. And I'm having my notes, what a weird convoluted plot. So Fred sends Velma and Scooby and Shaggy out to investigate where the X is marked on the map.
Let's talk about that X for a minute. So the currents, it's a sophisticated scientific analysis of how the currents are going to guide this random thing in from 20 miles out. And we all know currents don't really work that way. So
do we?
Yeah. You can't predict how a thing is going to float in from 20 miles away in the ocean.
At Northwestern Law School, was there a class on currents?
No, but it's just a matter of common sense. And so it's like a given that it's going to just float right into Oceanland from miles off sea. I don't think so. And their analysis does not consist of charts and graphs and numbers. No, it consists of a map with an X on it.
Yeah.
That's their whole plan for how it's going to, that's their whole analysis for how it's going to get to Oceanland.
Thank you for summarizing the excellent plot to date.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I love it. Fred and Daphne stay behind to bone down. And do you want me to talk about how they go out to the fishing boat?
No, I do.
I thought your voice might be tired from your tirade.
No. So they go out to the fishing boat, Velma and Shaggy, and
Scooby.
And Scooby, right, of course, because Shag and Scoob never... Do they ever get separated?
I don't think that's ever happened.
No, they're like best friends. So they get out to the boat, and lo and behold, there's a giant ice machine on the boat. And nobody else is on the boat. Now, why do they have a giant ice machine that's able to chunk out these huge blocks of ice, like one every 5 seconds? It's amazing.
Yeah.
And that would require so much power.
Totally. These blocks must be like 2 by 2 by 3 feet at least. And I am thinking, can you imagine the igloos we could build with those? Like, seriously, if a truck could deliver a whole bunch of those, we would have weeks of fun.
Right. So they put out a block of ice, but then how do you... Okay, so at the end of the show, it's revealed that there was a costume that was put into a block of ice. So you take this block of ice thing, how do you get the costume inside the block of ice to begin with? Or how do you get the caveman inside the block of ice?
Well, okay, here's the thing, sweetie. So ice is made of water, and when you put the water into the machine, it goes into a little, like, setting tray. Just like, think of our ice cube tray in the freezer. You know, you don't put ice on the ice cube tray, you put water in, and then you could put something like a little raspberry in our ice cube tray and make fancy mixed drinks for New Year's Eve.
But the raspberry wouldn't freeze in the middle of the ice. It would freeze at the bottom of the ice because it would sink to through the water at the beginning.
What you do is you partially freeze ice in there. You freeze just like a centimeter of ice. Then you add the raspberry, then more water, and then you complete the freezing.
Yeah, but that technology was not available for this thing. It was producing solid ice from the start. It wasn't doing this partial freeze that you do with your raspberries.
You don't know what I do with my raspberries.
I do too.
Okay, you have revealed the one gap in logic in this entire episode.
Well, also it's a warm climate, right? Marineland is in Palos Verdes, California. So this chunk of ice goes into the ocean. The ocean water is going to be about 70 degrees.
Pacific Ocean.
Absolutely, in Southern California.
Okay. Anyway, the kids are being blocked in and dog are being blocked into this room by all this ice that's filling up. Certain doom is about to ensue. But then Scooby slides on a block of ice towards the door, and this part is denying all physics. The block of ice slams through the keyhole such that it forms a perfect shape of a key with handle and everything in order to unlock the door. Scooby reaches his paw under the door and grabs the key, and it unlocks, and they're all safe.
That doesn't make sense to me. If I were a dog, I would reach my tail through, because his tail, you can grab things with his tail, or you can at least push your tail through. And his whole paw is unlikely to fit underneath the door.
Well, I think his tail's probably sore from the earlier stompling. Plus, speaking of icing or injuries, Shaggy does ice his crotch for a while, which I was very glad about because I was afraid of swelling from that tree earlier. Okay, then Shaggy rows them all back on top of a block of ice that does not melt because Olaf was wrong about the temperature of the water. Olaf, tell us what happens next.
Well...
Unless you want me to.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, so all the kids group up at Oceanland, and Fred sets a trap. Dun, dun, dun. The trap isn't that great. It's basically, let's drop a net on top of the caveman as he comes by. And the caveman, even though he was already chasing Shaggy and Scooby, they wanted to make them even more alluring by dressing them as a shark and a swordfish.
Clearly a pre-homage to the Katy Perry Super Bowl performance that was to take place about 30 years later.
Maybe that's where she got the idea.
Maybe.
The swordfish injures the caveman's rectum, which is pretty disturbing, and then he chases them. Daphne leans over the rail to see what's going on, and she falls with Fred and Velma trying to save her. And all three fall on top of Scooby and Shaggy. And then we get an amazing song.
Yeah, so... I think you had said in an earlier episode that this is the season where they put in random songs.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is a random song. It's called 7 Days a Week, which has nothing to do with the plot. And they chase each other around. It's kind of like well, it's what they do every show, right? They chase each other around to music. What are some of the highlights?
Saturday morning, don't know what to do. I've been dreaming of you 7 days a week.
Is that really how it goes?
Those are the exact words. I made up the lyric, or I made up the tune.
Yeah, you don't want to have copyright violations on this show.
Exactly, right, because Warner Brothers is listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's hiding underwater, getting lifted up by a whale blowhole, getting caught in a ship anchor, hiding under tortoises.
Going into a giant clam.
Uh-huh. Oh, the giant clam is red, which I thought symbolic. The caveman, I'm not going to say what, caveman's skirt is still there through all of this, by the way, in case you're wondering.
And why is he so angry? It's totally not, I don't see what drives the caveman to be so angry. He just seems really angry at these kids when you're right. He should be having a snack or having a nap.
Right. Even when we get our explanation for a little while later, it still doesn't make sense. He should have just made his appearance and then run off. Anyway, he does get stuck in a giant red clam. It represents female body parts, I think. And he uses English to say, "Hey, pull me out." Olaf's looking at me with disbelief right now.
Well, you do talk a lot about, the crotch parts in this show. So I guess that's kind of par for the course.
But it's all clean language. Don't have an explicit rating. Anyway, we finally figure out what's going on. It was Professor Wayne. And, oh boy, kids, this plot. Okay, let me help you understand what's going on. As Olaf said, here is Professor Wayne's plot. He took a caveman suit, embedded it in a block of ice, dumped it into the ocean because he knew the current would take it to Marineland. Unfortunately, the kids got it first due to fishing, but they dropped it off at Marineland anyway.
But there's another part to it. He had heard the news that a real caveman in a real block of ice had fallen into the ocean. It's left unexplained what happened to that real caveman in the real block of ice. In fact, if I had designed this story from the outset, I would have followed that plot thread, because there's a real caveman and a real block of ice? This episode leaves me totally unsatisfied.
I think it's pretty clear. The ice melted. The cadaver got eaten by sharks. The sharks that had been let free from your childhood.
No, because the water does not have normal properties. The ice would not have melted in the water, so it's probably out there still floating in the frigid waters.
Let's go. Maybe the next episode's about that.
I don't think we can find babysitting.
Oh, okay, good point. Yeah, the screens that we've got the kids set up in front of right now so we can do this recording are bound to give up at any moment.
Well, Netflix let us stream for 72 hours consecutively, so...
Not gonna happen. They need potato chips at some point.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so yeah, the real reason he was doing all these shenanigans was because the Professor Ingstrom had invented the marine life communicator, and he wanted to, kill him and blame it on the caveman, I guess, was his plot. And it doesn't make sense how this was going to result in him stealing the marine life communicator, but that was the plan. Scooby goes over to the marine life communicator and uses it to say, "Scooby-Doo!" to a fish. And the fish replies, just like our new Alexa device, "Scooby-Doo!"
Well, that was good.
Thank you.
Were you practicing that before the show?
No, this is what a pro does.
Oh, wow.
I know, you like it?
Uh-huh.
Olaf's got a little twinkle in his eye. I'm glad I could impress
Do it
you.
again, the fish. Scooby-Doo!
Anyway, then a very exciting thing happens. Professor Wayne says, "It would have been mine if it weren't for those meddling kids." Yes,
Are you keeping
satisfying.
track? I don't listen to every one of your episodes. Are you keeping track with how many times they've actually said meddling kids?
Yeah, this is only the second time, and they still haven't said "I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids."
Ah.
They didn't say it at all the first season. It was very disappointing. Anyway.
Well, I feel honored to be on one of the shows where they do say that.
I know. Poor Steven's going to be upset. Oh, well. I'm delighted to be here with you, sweetie. Why don't you give us the denouement?
Well, the denouement is that they're all out dancing together.
At the malt shop.
Yeah, at the malt shop. I don't really have anything to say about that scene.
You forgot, the central part of the scene, which is
I do.
Fred and Daphne are dancing, Shaggy and Velma are dancing, and now Scooby finally has a dance partner. The weird, disgusting skin from the fake caveman.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's Scooby dancing with?
That's who.
Well, who's Shaggy dancing with then?
Velma.
Oh, right, because it's 5 kids. They each need a dance partner.
Apparently, they also didn't have a math class. I am writing your professors an email right after this. Well, Olaf, thank you so much for joining us. And listeners, thanks for joining us. You can email us your suggestions and questions at meddlingkidspod@gmail.com. And please get in touch with us on Twitter at meddlingkids. And on Facebook, too. We have a page for the show, but also a really lively discussion group. Also, thanks to Dave Says Tay for the use of our music. And I think that's a wrap, unless you have final words of wisdom for us.
No, just thanks for inviting me.
You are welcome. Okay, have a great day, everyone. Happy New Year. Today we have a special guest.
It's me, Chris.
It's Chris Osborne from the Play Comics Podcast. Hey, Chris, thank you so much for joining us on this lovely day to be our new correspondent all about games, and especially Scooby-Doo games.
I'm really glad to be a part of this. I know I can't fill Steven's shoes, but hopefully we can get him on here to have some fun with us on a later rendition of this.
Yeah, he definitely wanted to be with us today and was bummed that his schedule wouldn't allow it. But before we jump into Scooby-Doo games, tell us a little bit about your podcast.
So I do a podcast called Play Comics, where I look at video games based on comic properties and how well they stick to that source material. And from the ones I've gone through on the show so far, they're all pretty bad.
Oh no! What's been your favorite one so far?
The favorite one that we've covered has probably been the second Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, because it's just a port of the arcade game where you just kind of go through the streets and beat people up.
Is there a lot of pizza? There's got to be pizza.
There is. That's your get health back.
Oh, right. Okay.
Icon in there.
That totally makes sense. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you're not just judging these on how good a game they are, but really, like, how much do they stick to the source material? Because that's what we want to know. It's not just, is the game you're going to review good, but how scuba-rific is it? So what game are you discussing today?
So today I'm looking at one that I kind of accidentally picked up one day. The Super Nintendo release of Scooby-Doo Mystery.
Ooh, I have not played that. So tell us a little bit about it.
It's kind of a junior version of a Manic Mansion, those like point-and-click adventure games, mystery games like that. In this one, you play as a Shaggy Scooby combo, kind of controlling both of them at once, and go through the levels looking for clues that you bring over to Daphne to try to put the mystery together. You bring clues to Velma because she's the smart one.
Okay, I was going to say that's a shocking. Okay.
Daphne has Scooby snacks for you, and Fred oddly knows everywhere you should go because he probably set this whole thing up himself.
Yeah, I was going to say it sounds like a Fred's mystery trap kind of thing. Okay, so Fred is like the knowledgeable guru you go to for clues. Daphne gives you Scooby snacks. And do those give you health back, or are those just like...
This one is a little bit weird in that instead of losing health when you get hit by enemies or something, you have your fright meter go up.
Whoa.
So when you get to be too scared, Scooby jumps into your arms and you just kind of have to go back to the beginning of the level and start over because you got scared and ran away.
So it's almost like it's a therapeutic game about anxiety, and when you reach the point of no return, you have a panic attack and need to take some time off and do some diaphragmatic breathing. Am I taking too much of a psychology spin on this?
Yes, but in all the right ways.
Okay, excellent. Okay, perfect. Let's go with that then. It's canon. Whoops, I dropped my phone. Sorry, hold on. I got way too excited about that. Okay. So, so you said a junior game. Is this what age group do you think this game would be okay for? And who's it aimed
smaller
at?
kids. You know, I could see somebody 8, 10, somewhere around there enjoying it. It's a little bit hard for me to pinpoint that exactly because it is a Super Nintendo game, so it doesn't have all the modern hand-holding in it.
Okay. Well, it sounds good. Is it an enjoyable game? How Scooby-ish is it?
The art style, you can really tell. It's pretty classic 60s Scooby-Doo looking.
Oh, that's good. They didn't use the modern art.
Oh, no. This came out in 95, too, so modern art for them would still be pretty classic looking.
Awesome.
None of this insane pup named Scooby-Doo stuff.
Right. What about the music? Because I'm guessing that plays a big role.
This one it's really toned down from the show. I was a little bit disappointed. I was hoping for more actual Scooby-Doo kind of chase style music or something in some parts. But, it might just be because it's been a very long time since I've actually played this one. But most of it was just a lot of the kind of music you'd expect in the adventure mystery games.
Okay, so let's imagine that we're talking to some of our super fans who know everything about Scooby-Doo. I'm talking to you, Carson Thatcher. How much would you recommend this game on a scale of 1 to 5 Scooby snacks? Or 1 Scooby snack is, may as well just use your time rewatching Scooby-Doo episodes, and 5 Scooby snacks is, yeah, this is a great way to spend an afternoon or two.
I would say a 3 or a 4.
Okay.
There are some platforming parts in this game that they're just not very good.
Fair.
But you can really easily attribute that to Shaggy and Scooby are really clumsy and fall over themselves. So that part stays true really well.
All right. Well, it sounds kind of like some of us in real life. Not me. I'm not clumsy at all. No, it's totally me. Okay. Well, thank you so much for that recap. What's the name of the game one more time?
It is Scooby-Doo Mystery on Super Nintendo. There is a Genesis release, and it's a little bit different.
Okay. I'm hoping I can beg you to send me a link to that. I'll put it in the show notes so folks can find it. Okay, so here's my game's lack of knowledge. Is this the kind of thing someone could find on eBay, or is this a really, really deep cut that would be impossible to find?
You could probably find this on eBay. If you did, it'd probably be in the $5 to $10 range. It's one of those ones that it's not so super cheap and common that people are just willing to give it away to get rid of it.
Okay. Hey, I think that would be fun. Someday, maybe when Steven and I, and now you, accrue like a couple thousand listeners, we'll do an in-person thing, and maybe we can all play Scooby games and hang out and have a Scooby day. Well, thank you, Chris Osborne, so much of Play Comics Podcast. Where can everyone find you out on the internets and the interwebs?
Well, obviously, playcomics.com is where I have my podcast. You can catch me on Twitter at PlayComicsCast and in all of the best Facebook groups on podcasting.
That's how I met you. And I'm grateful for that. Well, and as always, you can find Steve and Pappas and I at Meddling Kids Pod on Twitter. And please join our Facebook group for the Meddling Kids Podcast. And also, we've got a great discussion group that is super fun and lots of interesting and really weird recipes. And Chris is our number one food aficionado when it comes to Scooby-isms. So, also, thanks to Dave Seste for the use of our amazing music. Anything else I'm forgetting, Chris, or any last things you'd like to say?
No, just be ready for those videos where I actually go try all the snacks that y'all think are disgusting.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait. And thanks to videos like that and the secret cameras hidden in